Let me know. Let me know. Yeah, I was just muted. I was just making sure everything's getting recorded. Cool. How's everyone's trading week been? Fantastic opportunities this week. How's everyone getting on? Those that are new, how you finding the strategy? And those that have had some time with this strategy, how you guys finding it? And those that have been here a while, I'm hoping we're seeing progress. Good week, blowing accounts left and right. Okay, maybe look at why. Cool. Um, so the first thing I wanted to start off with is just kind of going through the importance of approaching the markets. It's really, really important to make sure that you are going through the course content, myself who has been learning this concept for 2 to 3 years now. You have to be well versed with the strategy in order to know how to approach the markets. And you know, lost the trading week that's just gone by. Really, really successful in terms of the strategy and most assets, to be honest. Gold, euro, YM. There were a few trades on FX, which we'll look at as well. But I'm going to start off with gold. A very successful week for myself. 4 out of 4 trades taken on gold, all wins. And we'll go through why. But yeah, so I'm hoping everyone can see my screen. Just let me know, and we'll get straight into it. Um, so the reason why, so what I do at the start of my sort of analysis on Sunday, where I get ready for the trading week, is I look at the pairs that look tradable to me. Now, if you look at NQ, okay, we can just swipe for the daily. After it took out these lows, okay, and you just look at what's happened so far, you've sort of kind of missed the move where you've had no pullbacks, no build-ups, no traps really. And so I didn't really focus on NQ, but you can see how the direction is really clear. Whereas if you look at gold, okay, these are the main 2 pairs that I trade. You can see how we have that build up, we have some traps, we have opportunities to get into the market. So on Sunday, what I like to do is just look at 2 to 3 pairs where I want to focus on for the week. I mark out my levels. So you can see here, if we get started with gold, okay, now your chart might look different to mine. I'm using the futures chart, so GC, as opposed to XAU, and I'll come on to the differences in that chart in a second. So as you can see, we took lows from the left, okay. In fact, we even took out these lows here, inducing sellers. Now, what has this move done? Okay, you can see where this move started from and how it respected all-time highs. What we're essentially doing is building liquidity at all-time highs. And then we can see how, if we zoom in, okay, once we've taken these lows, okay, I then look for my trap or the inducement high that we can revisit. Now, if you look at this chart here, and this is really important to see here, you can look at where we broke structure, and this will come with experience. I can see this from the daily, but you can see how this is the high that broke structure down. Okay, so that is where we have our higher time frame inducement high. And what I can also see is every time we approached that high, okay, so if I just put a box around there, every time we approached this high, this whole area, notice how we had a break of structure. okay, or we induced sellers, okay. So you can see that over here, okay. So this is our inducement high, and it is an attraction of price, okay. This is where we have liquidity, okay. We have respected this high multiple times. So when I was forecasting going into this week, I marked out this level here, and I was hoping for price to visit this level, okay. So if I know that we have sellers induced, and this is how you approach your higher time frame bias. If I know we have sellers induced, okay, and we know we have a build up at these highs, my bias going into the trading week is I am looking for buyers into that liquidity, okay. Now, as we can see, we have sellers induced, okay, and approaching the trading week, I can see how we induced buyers. So that was last week. All I'm waiting for now that we have induced buyers. Now, how have we induced buyers? So we are basically approaching this trap area. We have broken structure to the upside, okay, inducing buyers. All I'm looking for is for buyers to get trapped, okay. So I'm looking for a trap where buyers have early buyers getting into this market get trapped, and we can go on to lower time frames to see this, okay. So you can see here, there's my inducement high. We've respected that area multiple times, okay. And as soon as I saw, so if we look at this in detail here, okay, we've taken these highs. I will not be looking for any buys, okay, into these areas. Now look what happens, okay. Last week we took out those highs, we come back into these lows, we break structure again, okay. You've got now confirmation for retail to buy again, okay. So again, this red area, we have another break of structure to the upside, and look what happens for those holding over the weekend thinking we're moving higher, okay. The market gaps down, okay, takes this liquidity. Now why did it take these lows? Okay, because this whole area is where we had a build up of liquidity, okay. And just to show you guys that, for those that might be new here, okay, we had a break of structure, okay, we respected these lows and we moved away, okay, showing us that we now have liquidity below these lows. And I did check, so even though it's quite small, if I zoom in, okay, you can see how ever so slightly we've taken those lows, and you can see how we have a reaction out, okay. So we have a reaction out, okay. So this is on Sunday, okay, as soon as the markets open. So going into Monday, I'm looking for buyers, and we can go down to lower time frames to see this. So I'm not looking to get into the market straight away, okay. So we've taken these lows, okay, and these are not my trading times. This is during Asia, but you can see how we've swiped these lows, okay. Could have taken a higher time frame entry here, but too early for me. Now notice how we have a massive gap here, which price tends to fill, and you can see how we induced buyers, okay. So we've induced buyers. These are trap areas. You would not be looking to buy. Notice how the market gives a reaction out, a break of structure, okay, and then takes out those early buyers, okay. So you had buyers induced, buyers trapped, and that's why we see this move come out. Now you could have taken a position here, however, you would have had to go break even once these highs went. and we'll go to lower time frames to dissect what happened there. Okay, but once those highs have been taken and we've come into this gap or filled this gap, we can expect that sell-off to take out these buyers again. So if we go down to lower time frames, okay, so notice how we took out these lows, okay, on a very, very small scale here, okay, we can see how, and this is quite risky. You've got buyers induced, not much of a build up here, okay, and then buyers trapped here, creating an LB. Okay, so this candle here, okay, and you could have taken a long in this area, targeting all of this liquidity above. Okay, so you can see how we've respected this area multiple times. We respect it again, and then price takes that high. But once price has taken that high, okay, you can expect these lows to go. Okay, and look at where we built liquidity at these lows here. Okay, and lows had been taken. Okay, so buyers induced, buyers trapped. Now once I saw that, okay, so we saw buyers induced and buyers trapped, okay, and we've reacted from, notice how we have that reaction and we moved away. So we now have liquidity, okay, above these highs. So as soon as I saw these buyers trapped, if I zoom in, okay, I'm hoping we can see the entry. So what I then saw was, if I just put that as an LB there. Okay, so LB area, price shouldn't go down below these lows. You can see how we had a break of structure, okay, and then we trapped these early buyers. Okay, for me, I would say that would be another LB created. We then respect our trap area, our inducement high, okay, and Elijah goes over this time and time again. Okay, so we respect our inducement high, and notice how we broke structure. Okay, where did we break structure from? Our inducement low. And that was my entry. So that was entry number one, okay, on futures. So quite late in the day, 5 p.m. for myself GMT, okay, and I basically targeted these highs, I believe. Now, you can see how the market gave a reaction out, okay, and I believe I set a higher target. If I just zoom out, yeah, that was my target for Monday. So we targeted these highs, and I was out of the market by then. So yeah, it was like market close around here, on future props. So I had to close all positions around here. Okay, but you can see how we hit target, and that was trade number one for me on Monday. Now, I can see we have another entry. So buyers induced, buyers trapped. There was possibly another entry, quite risky in my opinion. Targeting the, I don't know if the RR makes sense, but let's see if this makes sense. So you can see how we induced buyers, and notice how we have a reaction at these lows. Okay, notice how we broke structure. Okay, so we trapped buyers here. Okay, now not all liquidity was taken from the left, but we can mark this out as an LB. And then we had a break of structure, and then we trapped those early buyers. Now this would have been another entry, however I don't think the RR makes sense. Ooh, 2.8, yeah, I wouldn't have taken that. Okay, it just doesn't make sense for me in terms of the RR. But yeah, you can see how the model still plays into liquidity. Okay, so that was Monday's price action. Okay, I'll just check if we have any questions. Okay, I'll go through the questions once I've just dissected PA. Okay, yeah, this is recorded, or it's recording. Yeah, so just bear with me. Let me just go through price action. Okay, and I'll just make sure that we're recording and what's been recorded. In fact, I'm going to just save this and then record again. So just bear with me. Okay. Okay, and right, so we'll just go back to, I'm just making sure that we are recording. Okay, so just bear with me. Feel free to ask your questions while I just get this set up again. Okay, so just to kind of go through this again. So we had buyers induced, buyers trapped. Okay, for those that want me to go through this again. So this is on Sunday. We had the market open. Okay, and after the market open and we gapped down. Okay, notice how we induced sellers. Okay, after we induced sellers, okay, sellers were looking to take positions in these areas. Okay, so notice how we had buyers induced. Okay, we even had a break of structure from this area. Okay, and then we had buyers trapped, creating our LB. Now we did say there was a position here, okay, that we could have taken to these highs. Why? Because there's liquidity at these highs. We then broke structure, inducing buyers. So anything from this left would be a trap, okay, creating our LB. We now have liquidity at these highs to target. Now, as we approached the sort of afternoon, we induced buyers again, trapped them, creating that LB, and we stayed below that inducement high. We then induced buyers, trapped them, and that was my first position taken. Okay, now we could have taken another position, but it just didn't meet the RR on Monday, where we induced buyers, trapped them, still staying below this inducement area. Okay, so we still have that liquidity that hadn't been taken. We induced buyers and trapped them. However, the RR just didn't make sense. And that was Monday. Okay. Now on a higher time frame, I was saying how on a higher time frame, we had buyers trapped, sellers induced. We have this inducement high, okay, that we're looking to target or buy towards. Why this inducement high? Because we took these lows. This was the high that took out that low, and we respected that zone or area multiple times. Okay, so going into this week, what I was looking for was we induced buyers. I was looking for buyers to get trapped, which we did on the open, and I was just looking for buyers going towards those highs. Okay, so that's just a recap of where we are at the minute. We'll then now go through Tuesday's price action because I believe there was another trade on Tuesday. I'll answer everyone's questions in a second. Let me just go through the PA. So we now have taken those highs. So that was on Tuesday. Okay, now if we go onto the 1 hour, we can see this a little bit more clearly. So that was Monday. Now, on Tuesday, okay, what we saw, if I just clear my chart, is on Tuesday, we had this area to target. And why I've marked out this area, remember, I'm just looking for longs, okay, towards the highs. Now, why on Tuesday have I used this as a target? Notice how we have respected this area multiple times and moved away. Okay, we now have engineered liquidity above. And the reason why I was only targeting here and not these highs, in hindsight, yes, price visited these highs. In hindsight, it looks good, but the reason why I would have only targeted those highs is because this is an LB. We can expect reactions from here. Okay, so going into Tuesday's price action, we have a level of liquidity to target. So our direction is very clean. Okay, very easy to see. Now, if we zoom in, Tuesday, we open up, okay? We're inducing buyers. Again, what are we looking for? We're looking for a trap of buyers. And notice how we've induced buyers through breaks of structures. We've respected these areas, okay? So just off the H1, we can see how we've respected this area. Why? We've come into this box multiple times, okay? And we can even see that on the 15-minute. Okay, look how we're having break of structures. Okay, so I don't know what's going on there. So we broke structure, respected the area, and moved away. We now have liquidity below there. Okay, so what am I waiting for? I'm waiting for a trap of this area. Why did I wait for this high, this low to get taken and not these lows before or below? And I get asked that a lot of times. We're looking at where price has built liquidity, okay, where we've respected and moved away. That low, we now have liquidity below, so we can use that as an LB area. Okay, we can expect reactions from here. What am I looking for? Notice how you should just train your eyes to see where would we see these traps. Look how retail are getting in sell positions here as soon as we stabbed into these lows. So buyers induced, buyers trapped. Now I realized I had a limit here, but we didn't take this low. We respected it, left a double bottom and moved away. Now on the H1, this looks really, really nice because if we just go to the H1, anywhere below Tuesday 12 p.m, okay, it is an entry. Okay, anywhere below there, okay, targeting those highs. I mean, if we go back to the 15-minute, okay, so anywhere below there. Now I was I had a very good feel. Okay, this is where I took my entry. I had my stops below. and I was targeting those highs. Okay, and that was my second position. Okay, um, and that was the second win of the week on Tuesday. Okay, um, and you can see how we've taken out that level of liquidity. Now, if we zoom out onto higher time frames, just to show you where we are. Okay, so ideally, this is our inducement from the left, which hasn't been taken yet. Okay, we broke structure. Okay, so this is now coming into Wednesday. Okay, so on Tuesday, okay, we broke this high. Okay, inducing buyers. Okay, however, we haven't taken inducement from the left yet. Okay, how and so what I was looking for going into Wednesday, okay, was shorts. Okay, and so Monday and Tuesday we had the longs up into these highs. Okay, um now on Wednesday we can look for shorts. Why? Because we've taken these highs to the left. Still risky because we have liquidity above, so that would be a counter bias trade. Now if I just clear my charts now, so we've induced buyers. Okay, now what do I want to see when I'm looking for sales? I'm literally looking for early sellers to get in, sellers to get trapped. Now I can see that straight away off this 4-hour time frame, where notice how buyers are getting in these positions. Okay, in fact, we'll even make it easier going down lower time frames, and there were plenty of short opportunities. Okay, watch this. So first things first. Okay, noticed how we've had reactions, okay, of this whole area. Okay, we're inducing sellers. Okay, and I'll zoom in so you guys can see this. So I'll just write it here so we can see it. So buyers induced. Okay, so buyers induced in this area, and then okay, we are looking for sales, right? So notice how we have this break of structure. Okay, and look at what this break of structure does. It induces sellers. Okay, where does it induce sellers? Into these areas or zones. Okay, and notice what price does. Price takes those highs. We then, if I zoom in fact, we'll go down to the lower time frames, and then okay, we break structure to the downside again. Okay, now this is Asia. Okay, notice how we even get reactions from our trap areas. So this is our inducement high. Okay, we've had reactions down, and there it is. There is our sellers trapped. Okay, now this is an LB. Okay, so there's our LB. Now, what am I looking for after we formed our LB? Okay, so we formed our LB. We now need a build up. Notice how we have sellers coming in. We're still respecting this low. Okay, and there is our early sellers trapped. Okay, now that would be, now this isn't a short I've taken, but this was an opportunity during London, which you could have taken. Okay, targeting these lows. So that's your first position that you could have taken. Now that we've trapped those early sellers, this now forms a second LB. And notice again from our trap areas, okay, we have reaction, we have a break of structure to the upside, sellers coming in, sellers trapped. Okay, so sellers induced, okay, and then we trap them. Okay, again, that is our second short that we could have taken. Stops covering those highs and targeting these lows. Okay, and then a third position where this was really, really nice to see, in fact, is this. Okay, we had sellers induced. Sorry. So that is our second position. And then where we have basically respected this area and moved back up. Okay, in fact, we can see this on lower time frames. So this now forms an LB. So this here, okay. And if I go to the 1 minute, okay. So notice how we induced sellers and then we trapped them, okay. And I think it's lagging. 1 second, guys. And so that would have been our third position, which I took. So this is the one I took. Okay, and if we zoom out, this is what I took. I took this up to here where we basically induced buyers from. So there were 3 positions that you could have taken. Okay. Just bear with me, guys. Just bear with me. I'm just trying to make sure this is being recorded properly. Where it's not. Okay. Okay. Sorry, we're back. So, I'll answer questions in a second, guys. So just bear with me. So just to kind of go through this one more time. Um, and so for those that are new in here as well, okay, the position on a higher time frame is longs. Okay, why are we longing? Can someone tell me why we're looking for longs on gold? Tell me in the chat, why are we looking for longs on gold? This is the futures chart I'm looking at. Why are we looking for longs? Let's see what everyone's writing. Sellers induced. Perfect. Well done. Exactly that, right? Sellers induced. So we're going for the inducement high. Now look at what I've marked out. 4900.3. That inducement high. Why is that an inducement high? Because we took this low from the left. Taking this low from the left, we have this inducement high, which we respected multiple times. Okay. So look how we respected it multiple times. 1, 2, 3 times. Okay. So if I just clear my charts and just mark out those 2 levels, okay. Sellers induced. Okay. And this is our inducement high. In fact, I'll mark it out in a different color. There's our inducement high. Okay. So that's our inducement high. We're looking for buyers. Okay, on last week or the previous week we induced buyers. I was looking for on Monday to trap buyers. Okay, so this is where we trapped buyers. Okay, and you can see that if I zoom in, you can see that this low was taken. Okay, as you can see, ever so slightly, but nonetheless it was still taken. And look at the move we have up on Monday. Okay, so we managed to catch. I'll just quickly go through this one more time, just so we're all on the same page. Okay, I was looking for buyers to get trapped, which we did. Okay, so we induced buyers, we trapped them. Okay, that created our LB. Right, I'm hoping by me going through this again, it's making more sense. Okay, now look at where sellers were induced from. We stayed below there. That's our inducement low, and that was entry number 1. Okay, so that was entry number 1. Where did I target? I targeted where we induced from. So we induced from this high. Okay, notice how we had a reaction, okay, at these highs. And that is why I targeted those for a nice 1 to 4. Okay, and you can see how we induced and trapped over here. So we had buyers induced, buyers trapped. However, the RR just didn't make sense at this low. Notice how we've trapped early buyers here on Monday. This is really late. This is the PM session on futures. Okay, so you can see how, okay, that trap LB area over here, the RR just didn't make sense. 2.8, unless you were targeting higher. Okay, it just didn't make sense. So that was Monday. Tuesday I've just gone through. Okay, if we look on the higher time frames, I don't know why my recordings just keep getting stopped. Yeah, the second entry would be risky. The second entry would be risky. Okay, just checking. Can everyone see my screen? No? Okay. Just bear with me. It says paused. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, every time I switch between the chat, it will say it will say that. So, can everyone see my screen now? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Cool. I'm gonna just try to record this again, because the recording's not recording at the minute. So just bear with me. I know everyone wants the recording. So I'm gonna try to record this one more time. Just bear with me. What should we use? Yeah, let's try to do this again. Just give me one more second, guys. Okay, so yeah, can everyone see my screen now? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'm recording it now, so I think it just cancelled the recording, so I'm just trying to record it now. Okay, so apologies for repeating myself, but I'm hoping the repetitions get into your heads. So on the higher time frame, we induced sellers. We know why that's the inducement high, okay, because we took out this low, okay, and so that is the high that took out the low. We respected it multiple times. Okay, so notice how we respected that multiple times. We even induced buyers going into Wednesday. We're now looking for a trap, which we did on Monday. Okay, so notice how we trapped on Monday. And these were our entries on Monday. So we have sellers induced. Okay, so sellers induced. Okay, we had a buyers induced at this high, buyers trapped. There's our LB area. And if we go down to lower time frames, we can see that. Okay. So there's our LB. That's our inducement high. That's our inducement low. Notice how we basically stay below our inducement high and then we trap. Okay. And that's our entry. That was entry number one. Entry number two, notice how we are staying below, okay, where we've reacted from. So we've engineered liquidity there. Entry number two is risky because we've taken a high from the left. Okay, just like Mike was saying. We've induced buyers, trapped them, okay, and on the lower time frames, okay, on the lower time frames, we had that trap. We had buyers induced, we trapped them. That was the second position, targeting those highs. Okay, so that was Monday's price action. Going into Tuesday's price action, okay, I've kind of already said this here. So notice how we have this area of liquidity. Okay, why is that an area of liquidity? Okay, we have basically respected these highs multiple times. What am I looking for? Look how we are inducing buyers. We're approaching an area of where sellers tend to get in. Okay, notice how we had buyers induced straight off the H1, and then we had buyers trapped. Okay, forming our LB. So whenever you're looking for a position, you're always looking for, if you're looking for buyers, you want to see buyers trapped. If you're looking for sellers, you want to look for sellers trapped. And anywhere below this 12 p.m. candle is a buy entry. Okay, I believe I got on right in at the bottom. Okay, and that was Tuesday. Okay, targeting those highs. And you don't need to go any lower. Okay, so once you've got your LB, so once, let's say we're looking for a buy scenario, we want to see buyers trapped, an LB form. That gives us an area to put our stop loss. We then now look for another build up. So we had a build up, buyers getting induced, and we trapped them. That is our entry. That's our entry model. What are we always making sure? We're targeting engineered liquidity. And look how price attacks that liquidity. Now notice how we're still below our inducement from the left. However, we have taken highs from the left. So going into Wednesday, I was looking just for shorts. Okay, we're just looking for shorts going into Wednesday. Okay, now notice, let's look at what Wednesday did one more time, because there was multiple entries. Okay, multiple entries. Cool. So I'm just going to save this so I know that we have a recording for Monday and Tuesday. So let me just do that. And I'll look at some of your questions whilst that's just being saved, because I know you guys love the recordings. Cool. So that's saved. All right, cool. So we have that recording done. All right. Let's now. Okay, cool. So now we're carrying on recording. Let's look at Wednesday. We'll look at some questions. Okay, feel free to ask your questions, guys, in the chat. I will get back to them at the end. But let's go through Wednesday's price action. So look, we've induced buyers. If we look at it from a higher time frame perspective, okay, all of these buyers, okay, in the market, we've taken out this inducement high. Okay, now that's a higher time frame high that we've taken. Now we can expect short going into Wednesday. Okay, engineering more liquidity to these highs. However, this would be very counter bias and high risk. Okay, however, there were plenty of opportunities for these shorts. So if I'm looking for shorts, can someone in the chat tell me what is the first thing I'm looking for when I'm looking for shorts? What is the first thing I'm looking for? Someone tell me in the chat. What is the first thing we are looking for? Sellers trapped. Perfect. Okay. Now we want to form an LB, but we also want to make sure that we are targeting engineered liquidity. Okay. That's really, really key. We want to be targeting engineered liquidity. So anyway, let's have a look at what's happened. So we induced buyers. Okay. We're reacting from areas you can see this whole area is where buyers, in fact, this whole like demand or supply, whatever you call it, support. You can see how we're reacting off these. Notice how we have induced sellers. Okay, really important to see that we've induced sellers. We then take all this liquidity from the left, okay, trapping them. However, we then have another break of structure to the downside. I believe this is during yeah, I believe this is during Asia. Yeah. Okay, so for me, nothing on Wednesday. So notice what Wednesday's done. Okay, so Asia just respecting these highs. Okay, then London, we had a break of structure to the upside, trapping those sellers. No, there's nothing there for us. There's no trap. So Wednesday, nothing really happened. We've just engineered liquidity at these highs. Okay, now why did we do that on Wednesday? Because on Thursday, notice how we broke structure to the downside and then we trapped. We now have a LB. Okay, that is our step. That is our framework, right? We want to see our early sellers trapped. That forms an LB. Now, if we really zoom into PA here, notice how this is the low, okay, that took out that high. Notice how we are respecting that low. What do we want to see next? We want to see a build up. We have these sellers induced, okay, and then look what happens. We trap those sellers, okay, forming another LB. However, that would be our first sell position, okay. So shorts covering our SL at that LB, and what we're doing, we're targeting these lows. Why are we targeting these lows specifically? Can someone tell me in the chat, why are we targeting these lows specifically that I've marked out? You can tell me. Engineered liquidity. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Okay, so that is our entry number one. And now notice how we formed an LB there. Okay, we're still in this area where we've induced sellers. Okay, notice how we've induced sellers. We have a reaction from these highs. Look at the reaction down, and then we trap. Okay, so we trap. That is our second entry that you could have taken, covering that SL, that liquidity block, targeting those lows. And then the third one was a lower time frame confirmation. So we now have another LB here. Okay, and if we go down to lower time frames, that will go down to the 1 minute, because this is where I took my entry. So on Thursday, you can see how we've basically induced sellers, so break of structure, and then we trapped them. Okay, and look at the reaction we had straight after. Very volatile. Okay, a massive expansion down, covered my SL at these highs. Okay, and targeted those lows. Now I did expect price to go lower. However, I was aware that this was a counter bias move. Okay, so Monday I had one position, Tuesday I had a long, Wednesday I had a short. I only caught that third short. Okay, the first and second one I was not on the charts. So that was Thursday. Let me just make sure I've saved this again, just to make sure we have the recording. Okay, so that was Thursday's price action, right? Now let's look at Friday. Cool. So Friday's price action, okay, we'll come on to. let's look at Friday's price action. Now, this tricked out a lot of people, so I'm going to go through it. All right. I'm going to clear my charts just to make sure that we all have the same ideas. Remember how on futures chart, okay, we haven't taken inducement from the left on the daily time frame. So I am on higher time frame looking for longs into this area. Okay. Now, during the week, okay, we engineered liquidity, as you can see, multiple times into 4,900.5. Okay. So going into Friday, I'm looking for longs. In order for me to long, I need to see buyers induced and then trapped. Now, notice how we took out this high. So I can see why a lot of people were looking for shorts to these lows. Okay. So what did I see? I was aware that we had liquidity below. Okay. However, this is what gave me the confidence. Okay. We've induced sellers. Okay. Notice how we've induced sellers here. We've engineered liquidity. Yeah, because sellers got into positions over here. Okay. In fact, we'll go to lower time frame so you can see this better. So we've induced sellers, then we induced sellers again. Okay. We then broke structure to the upside. Okay. So buyers were induced. So if I just zoom in. So buyers were induced and then we were trapped here. Okay. Buyers got trapped here. This formed an LB for me. This is what I saw. Okay. So there's our liquidity block. Notice how we've now engineered liquidity to the downside. There is no liquidity here. Okay. We've now engineered liquidity to the downside. However, now that I've seen this liquidity block form and we've moved away, okay, what did I wait for? I waited for another LB to form because I wasn't looking to take any entries at the extreme. So notice how we broke structure. Okay, we even took out this high to the left. However, we are still below, okay, all of these highs. Look at all of these highs that were created during Asia, London. Okay, look at that. Okay, so I looked for another LB. Notice how we induced buyers and we trapped them. Okay, that was the second LB form. Okay, we then reacted from these trapped areas. Okay, now I took my position, okay, somewhere over here. So I saw this trap again. So early buyers trapped and I took my position here. So I got in quite early during London. Okay, I kept my stop below and I targeted because it was Friday and I didn't want to lose any sort of profits. I just targeted these highs. Okay, why did I target those highs? I'm sure you can see why by now. Okay, we have a build up here. Look, our prices trapped there multiple times, engineered liquidity above. Okay, now I believe this was Nuno, sorry, who took this, where we stayed below these lows, and then I believe this is another LB, and then we took that inducement low. And that is another entry you could have taken. Again, I would have covered all of these lows. And I believe he took it all the way up to that inducement from the left. Okay. And so that was my position that I took. You could have taken that as well. That would have made your whole month, to be honest, especially on funded accounts that have no consistency. Wow, what a move up. Okay, on Friday. So you can see here, just a kind of outlook. I took 4 positions, one on Monday, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday. That was counter buyer shorts, and then I took a Friday position. And these were all pre-planned. If you look on the Discord, you can see how I had levels marked out at the start of the week. Okay. And so that was that was gold. Now, what I wanted to show you guys Let me just save this recording again. Sorry, guys. 1 minute. Okay, let's just look at some questions and then we'll look at some other charts. Um, okay. One minute, guys. Okay, cool. So, yeah, feel free to ask your questions now. I'll go through the start of the questions and then we'll look at some other PA. So that was basically gold. So the first question was, would you please explain how the confirmation entry would apply to that LB when entering a trade? How long do you have to wait for early buyers to get trapped for you to enter? Okay, cool. I'll go through that in a second. What was your higher time frame? Was your higher time frame bias buy? That's why you took a long. Yes. How does your entries look like on a higher time frame? I'll go through that as well. Um, why do you use the futures instead of the CFD pair? So I use futures because it comes from CME, which is centralized data. So it's not manipulated by the broker. That's why I always use the futures feed. So that's NQ for NAS 100, and that's GC for gold and YM for US 30. And I'm going to go through why I use the futures. This week was a lovely reason why in fact they even proved how data is manipulated. High probability setup is a Da Vinci setup. We treat a level LB only if high and low are taken at the same time. Not at the same time, but if we've induced buyers and then trapped them, that should form an LB. It looks like once inducement high appears, the next step is to see price tap and move away from the bullish LB and wait for price to build up again and for buyers to be trapped. Wait for another trap to enter. Yeah, that's a Da Vinci. Early buyers must be trapped in higher time frame. Yeah, that's true. Um, what other questions have we got? Yeah. How did you get this entry? You barely go on the 1 minute time frame for entries. Yeah. Well, why would I want to see more candles? Genuinely. Like why do I want to go through that? Do you know what I mean? Um, like why would I want to go through the stress of looking at more candles? Doesn't make any sense to me. Do you know what I mean, Mike? Like, why would I want to put myself through? Why would I want to put myself through looking at, like, unless I'm refining an area or looking at sellers or buyers being trapped? Why would I want to go on the 1 minute to look for entries? I'd rather stay on the 5 minute. Um, but if you trade CFD, you can still use the futures. No, you'd use the futures chart, but you'd obviously take positions on your MetaTrader or whatever. Do you use any indicator? No. Um, no. What are your thought indicators? They're just ones that I was trialing out, but I don't ever use. Will you show on comments NQ last week if you have any opportunities for longs? Cool, I'll go for NQ. Early buyers meaning a run on a swing low. Yeah, so early buyers means any positions where you see breaks of structures and then a sweep of that break of structure. So those buyers that were in positions getting taken out. I'll show you guys on the charts now. Can we take trade only from extreme? Why would you want to do that? Yeah. You can take trades from liquidity blocks, yes. Would you please go over your process again when you're looking at NQ? Yeah, cool. I'll go over NQ now so you guys can see. Yeah, I'll go through NQ, so just bear with me. Let me just save this. All right, cool. Cool. Any other questions? Yeah, I'll go through FX pairs as well. Don't worry, we've got enough time. No stress. Gold forecast. I'll go through that now actually. Yeah, let's do it. All right, cool. So, where do I see gold going next? Well, on a higher time frame, we are bullish. Okay, we've taken out these lows. We've just taken out inducement high from the left. We can see, and what I'm hoping to see, if we go down to lower time frames, the first point that I'm looking for to get taken out is 4773.3. Notice how price took out that inducement high. Look at the reaction we came out straight away. Okay, I'm looking for price to take out this area of liquidity. Why? Because it is the area where we reacted from and broke structure. Okay, so we have liquidity below there. So maybe shorts going into early week, hopefully. So maybe we can get something like, I don't know, we come in, respect this area, build liquidity to the downside, trap, early sellers get in, trap, and then down. I don't like forecasting like that. I rather react to what price does. But yeah, basically I'm looking for early sellers to then get in, trap them, and then we'll look for that move back down. Okay. But yeah, I'll go through my thought process on NQ. So on NQ, well, just look at that. So I believe me, Marco, and the team, Elijah, we were all basically waiting for this area. Even Abid, we were looking for this area to get taken out, which it did. Okay. And we had points of liquidity, especially you guys watching those market forecasts and market recap videos. If you're a monthly member, you can see how we had these points of liquidity here. We then had over here, and then we had all-time highs over there. Okay. So, yeah, these were basically areas we had. Sorry, let me just get my tool back up. Just have a look at this question. How many hours do we usually do the webinar? For me, I've got some time today, so we can go through quite a lot of things today. All right, cool. So just to recap on NQ. So on NQ, we took out those lows. Yeah, myself, Abid, Marco, and Elijah, we were waiting for these lows so we can have those longs back up. Now, notice how we have these points of liquidity. If you were watching the market forecasts, market recaps, these were, areas we were looking to target. Price just came in like 2 weeks and took out all-time highs. Now, were there opportunities? Not really. I mean, if we go from Monday, yeah, it's just too not conditions for myself to trade in. Like, I don't think there was anything I'd take. Price is just, yeah, going to the upside. Yeah, on NQ, yeah, nothing of interest for me, honestly. And I can just tell that from the higher time frame. I don't need to go to the lower time frames to look for entries. If my higher time frame is showing that we took liquidity from the left, we broke structure to the upside. Like, look at this. We broke structure to the upside. We then respected this area and moved away, just leaving liquidity at the lows. And then we finally come and take out all-time highs. Yeah, nothing for myself. Nothing for myself. 24,930 from left was LB. 24. Alan, is that gold or NQ? 24,930. Oh, are you talking? Oh, you're talking about here. Oh, NQ. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah, it was an LB, but there was no entry. Yeah, we were looking for we like me, Marco, Abed, Elijah, we were looking for price below here. It just didn't come up. Like that would have been amazing. We would have caught that whole move up. Can you imagine? That's insane if we caught that. Yeah, that would have been an entry. Stops below, riding all the way up, partialed along the way. Yeah, that would have been insane. Um, cool. Yeah, what else is possible from five? Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it is a missed entry. Well, I mean, there was no entry because it didn't take the lows. But yeah, cool, guys. Any other questions? I believe, Gerald, you'd have to join the monthly package for the pre-market analysis. And this isn't just me being biased. If you want to have a good scope on um what am I basically trying to say? I'm basically trying to say if you want a good sort of reading from us as people who have traded this strategy for a while, um, like if you want direction where what we're looking at basically approaching the markets, we're looking at pairs that interest us and it aligns with your market analysis. The pre-market videos just do that, and then recapping it at the end of the day, it will just help train your eyes in live price action. um cool. Candle free high low, what is Sonny, what is candle free high low? Have you got an image you can attach? I don't know what you're talking about. um Brother, what made you switch from unprofitable to profitable? What was the trigger and key things? Okay, Mike, very good question. Something that I want to delve into, okay? Um, I've gone through the same mistakes a lot of you are probably making. I mean, I've been in that situation. I've blown accounts. I've over risked. I've thinking every inducement high and low is an entry. The easiest thing to clarify all of this is you need to simplify your trading. And what I mean by that is focus on the higher time frame is number one. If I don't see something from the first glance of looking at a H4 or a H1 chart, I'm not even entertaining that asset. Secondly, risk management. This is what changed my whole road to profitability. Now, we all get into this game to make money. I genuinely love this game. Like, I have a passion for this game. I love analyzing the charts and looking at charts to the precise pip, like price going to. But the whole thing changed for me is when I started to risk my money, how much risk I'm putting on a trade, my dynamic risk approach. I'm not treating each trade the same risk. If I see, for example, liquidity below and I'm looking for a setup, I will lower my risk. If I see a Da Vinci, I'm increasing my risk, sometimes more than 1%. Your risk management is what will lead you to stay in this game for a long time. Um, and I just simplified the strategy down, the strategy is very, very simple. Okay. And that is not even me because I've been doing this for a few years now. The strategy is very simple. If you can't explain the strategy to someone, it just means you don't know the strategy. It's very simple. Um, Buyers induced, buyers trapped, LB. As long as we stay below that high and we have a early build up of buyers and then we trap them, like that's how easy it is to explain this strategy. Buyers induced, buyers trapped. As long as we stay below that inducement high now and we trap buyers, there's your inducement. That's the model. It's as simple as that. We don't need to complicate things, and that's what I feel like a lot of us do. Um, your target has to be very realistic. Your entry has to be at a good fill, enough to cover your risk at an LB. Okay, I am always, you will never see a trade of mine that is not targeting engineered liquidity. Okay, realistic targets, we're day traders. Okay, some of us hold swing positions. We are always waiting for liquidity to be taken. Okay, um, and as simple as that, like genuinely, like that is our buy. And if I just invert the scale, there's our sell. Look at that. Sellers induced, sellers trapped. There's your LB. Early build-up of sellers. Engineered liquidity, trap those sellers, and then there you go. There's your entry. Like it's really not that difficult in terms of the technicals. Okay, yes, you do need to add some screen time. You do need to add back testing. You do need to review the case effect trade setup looks like. You know, you need to go through those things and go through the courses, go through the course, go through the webinars. But really and truly, it's going to come down to how well you can spot liquidity. Simple as that. Um, YM and USD. Um, yeah, I can go through YM and Euro if that's what you're referring to. So YM, pretty simple. Um, in fact, it's quite nice to see. So we had sellers induced in the higher time frame. Like I said, if the H4 or the H1 is not giving me an indication of where we should be going in terms of price, I'm not even trying to entertain it. Look at all of this liquidity we have to target. Okay, what am I looking for? So Monday, this is where we opened up, I believe. Is that where we opened up? Yeah, here, Monday. This is where we opened up. So straight away, step one, what am I looking to target? Where are we? On the higher time frame, we have sellers induced. I see a level of liquidity over here. Now, why have I picked this high as opposed to this high? Because I know that this high is a liquidity block, which means we could see reactions through it. Now, in this case, we just smashed through it, but I would have been targeting this high, 49,209. So straight away on the H4, that gives me my target. Now, if we look at where we started, I'll go down to the H1. Okay. So on Monday, okay, we opened up. What am I looking for if I'm looking for buyers? I'm looking for buyers to get trapped. Okay. So look at this. Buyers induced, buyers trapped. Okay. Now, there could have been an entry here. I believe we stayed below these lows. Yeah, there could have been an entry here on Tuesday. I can see it straight off the H1. Anything below, okay? There's an entry. Okay, so there's an entry. So give me 1 second, guys. Let me just save this. Okay. Um, and then we can continue. So that's the first one I can see straight away, targeting these highs. So SL there. Okay, so yeah, so SL there. Okay, and you would have just targeted these highs here. And I believe Marco got into the next ones, which I'm about to go through. So buyers induced, buyers trapped. Okay, so there's your sellers induced, there's your LB. Notice how we respect this area. Okay. Come down to these lows. Notice how I'm literally on the higher time frame here, guys. I'm not even bothered to go down lower. This would have been perfect. Stops below the LB. There's your second entry. Targeting those highs. That would have been your whole month done. Literally just holding those positions there. And this was a third position, in fact. So that's the second one. We stayed below this high, respected, and came back down. Let me just go down to lower time frames to spot it. No, we didn't trap. We didn't trap. Yeah, so just those two. Nice and simple. Yeah, just on the lower time frames, if you see that. Yeah, there's an LB there. That's your first position. Yeah, LB. Yeah, that's what I would have done on YM. Okay. I'm hoping that Pratap, um that build up doesn't seem visible in the higher time frame and even in the lower time frame before entry. Is there a way to look at it better? What are you looking for? What are you looking for? Are you talking about YM? What do you mean? What build up? Yeah, Gerald, I only trade NQ and gold for futures, yeah. And YM now because all the other assets are all-time highs. Um, can we take some long on Thursday and Friday to take last all-time high? No, why would I risk that? If we're already rallying on NQ, why would I risk that? Doesn't make sense to me. Cool. Any other questions, guys? We can keep going. Um, it's up to you guys. It's up to you guys. What else do you want to talk about? Why is that not when do you take a second position on same direction with open position and how to manage risk altogether? Well, I make sure that I've taken, first of all, when I'm in a second position, my first position has to be managed correctly. Yeah. My first position has to be managed correctly. What else? Um, yeah, Gerald, just hopefully, dig in and you'll start seeing results. It becomes invalid when it's taken, Troy. EU, yeah. We can go through EU. Um, do you know what? There was a beautiful entry on EU. The only one I'm gonna be looking at, I think I even have it marked out right now. Check this entry out on EU. Let's just look at it from the daily. So, first of all, there's your inducement from the left. Notice how price reacted from this high and moved away. Okay, as you can see, we're approaching these highs. So, I think this was on Thursday or Friday, I can't remember, but look at this beautiful entry. Buyers induced, buyers trapped. Notice how before we even came into that area or took that area, we had a breaker structure to the upside. LB formed. Again, what am I on? I'm not even bothered to go to the lower time frames. Look at that. Buyers induced, buyers trapped. Entry number one. This is the stuff that I love. No stress. Targeting those highs. EU entry one, entry two. Soon as we stubbed below these lows. Entry number two. And that's EU for you. Yeah, boom. 2 trades, nice and simple. When were this? On Thursday. Yeah, lovely stuff. Critical. So there you had the same stop. So did you have double risk? Um, no. You'd obviously risk less on your second position, or at least cover the risk of your first position. I don't trade EU futures, no. Um, BTC, you know what? I do look at crypto, but I've not been looking at it recently. Yeah, I can just see BTC coming for these highs. Notice how we had a reaction. So reaction there. Yeah, price coming to take out 79,739. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bullish on BTC at all. I think we can't take those highs and comes for these lows. Can get rid of that. I think we come for 60,000 for sure. Notice how we have an LB here. Do you know what an asset I have been looking at? Guys, check this out. With everything going on in the world, check this out. I have my eyes on this. Look at this. Wow. Just look at this. Look at this, right? All that liquidity below, right? We induced buyers. Okay. In fact, this deserves its own breakdown. So this is oil. Okay. So what I'm going to do basically is show you how I'd approach when I wake up and look at the charts using oil. Because why not? Okay. So just pay attention here, guys. Right. There we go. So let me break down oil for you guys. So look at all this liquidity that we built up. Okay. The first thing I'm looking for on the higher time frame, what I class as the higher time frame, is the weekly to the H1. Okay. Look at all this engineered liquidity. Okay. I believe this was on Friday. Watch this. Wow, this is insane precision. Okay. Watch this. I'm just gonna look at Friday. I think it was Friday. Yeah. So look. So we took this inducement high. Okay. Again, you guys can try to figure out why that's that. Why did we call this the inducement high? Yeah. So took out these lows, the high that took the low. Look how we respected this area multiple times. Okay. I'll even show that here. It'll look better on the lower time frames, but yeah, we even had a break of structure from that area, inducing sellers. We then trapped them. So this is your liquidity block. So if I'm looking for sells, I want to see early sellers trapped. Okay, so that's what we have. Early sellers trapped. What am I looking for next? I'm looking for a build-up of price, a build-up of some sort. Now notice how, okay, this would have been ideal. Right, there's your build-up. However, if I go down to lower time frames, you can see this. Okay, watch this. So during Asia, we got that Asia high. We basically broke structure. However, we stayed above this low here. Now, this is the low. Look at this. This is the low that took out that high. As long as we stay above that, the probability increases. We induce sellers. Okay. Now, where are we going to trap them? Your eye should point to this high. Now, I wouldn't have taken an entry straight away. Okay, I wouldn't have taken an entry straight away because we still have that high above that I could take. So what do? I'll mark that out and I'll go to lower time frames. Now check this out. Damn. Beautiful. Look how we took that last high, tapped into our liquidity block. Okay. That, riding it all the way down. I believe that's during London, yeah. What a trade. Damn. Well, 1 to 46. Wow. Now that is what you call perfection. We have engineered liquidity, sellers trapped, LB formed, and then we trap sellers again. Now that is, yeah, wow. Yeah, really nice entry there on oil. But yeah, guys, any other questions? Now's your chance. I trade London and New York. If I don't see anything happening in London, I'll trade New York. If I see obviously an entry in London, I'll lower my risk in New York. So I trade both London, New York. I never trade Asia ever. If I was to trade Asia, I'll only ever trade gold.